In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the all-new TONEX pedal from Multimedia. The TONEX itself has actually been out for a while now, but they just released this new bass version, which comes preloaded with a bunch of different presets and all the most popular bass amps like Ampeg, Aguilar, GK. So we're going to be taking a look at all of that, and I'm going to give you a brief overview of how this works. And I'm going to try to keep this as simple and as easy to understand as possible because it can get pretty complex. But for this video, I want to keep it as simple and as easy to understand as possible. So in order to get started, we're going to go into the TONEX editor software because that makes it a lot easier to visualize and see everything that's going on. You can edit everything that you edit in the software on the pedal itself, but it is a little bit more difficult. It takes more time working with these knobs, and it's a lot more visual and easier to see and understand if you do it in the software. So I'm going to show you all that, and let's get started. Okay, so here we are inside the TONEX software, and I know when you first open this for the first time, it can look a little confusing and intimidating, but it's actually very, very simple. So if you look on the left here, you'll see all these banks, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, and they each have 3 presets in them, A, B, and C. All this is this represents the foot switches on the pedal. You have A, B, and C. So you have all these banks, you put 3 presets, and those are your 3 foot switches. That's all that is. And on the pedal itself, it's very easy to switch between these banks. You just press the first 2 foot switches together to go down a bank, and then these 2 foot switches together to go up a bank, which I guess down here, but up in number. So you go from 0, 0 to 0, 1. And so you can see here what I did is I did a bank for the intro of this video. That intro that I played, it was on bank 1, foot switch A. So if I hit a foot, let's say I hit foot switch C here, see it goes to C on bank 0, 0, which is another preset I had. So in the beginning, I was playing this A on bank 0, 0. Right? And so that's all this is. So you can program all these banks, and you can program all of this on the pedal, but like I said before, it is more complicated. But everything you do here, for example, if you look at the bass right here on the EQ, if I move it here, it moves it on the software as well. So the pedal and the software are doing the same thing. It's just for me, it's a lot easier and more visual to edit in here than, you know, pressing these buttons to scroll through all the menus, and then you have to like rotate the dials, and it's just a lot harder because it's slower and it's not as visual. So over here, so let me go back to, you know, right here, C on bank 0, 0, and then what you have here is you can choose an amp head, you can choose your cab, and then you have effects. It has a compressor. You can add modulation, so chorus, tremolo, phaser. Has all these effects, delay, reverb. So on that first one, for example, what I had was I had a little bit of chorus going on. So I had like a clean bass sound and some chorus. And then on the amp here, if you go here, this is where you can choose the amp head that you want. So see, you have Ampeg, Aguilar, GK, Fender Bassman. You have all these options. So you can go here and just try them all out. And it's as simple as that. And you can do that for the cabinet as well. Works the same way. So like I said, I don't want to get too technical in this video. I more so want to show you how this works, what it sounds like, and how I would use it. And then, you know, you can watch other videos that are in-depth tutorials on how to do all this, because like I said, it can get pretty deep and we don't need to get into it here. So here's what I did for this video. I programmed bank number 1 as if it were a real-world situation, a gig that I'm playing in, where I need a clean sound, a drive, and then a solo sound. And by solo, I don't mean like actually, so I mean like playing like a bass solo. Right? Something like that. So I want to walk through those sounds, show you what I came up with, and give you an idea of how I would personally use this pedal, because I feel like that's more helpful than me going through a whole tutorial of, you know, how to edit and tweak every little parameter on this thing. All right, so let's get to it. Okay, so let's take a look at what I did here. So I'm gonna go to bank 1, and I'm gonna do that by pressing these 2 foot switches together. And then you see there bank 1, and I'm gonna go to A. And I programmed 3 different sounds as if this were a real world gig where I need a clean sound, a drive, and then a sound with effects. And of course, everyone's needs is gonna be different, but as you can see, there's a lot of banks, and you can program all these banks for different gigs. So if you do a metal gig, you can take a bank and program all of your drive sounds in one. And then if you do like a funk gig where you need a cleaner sound, you can have another bank with those kind of sounds. And the possibilities are really endless with this thing. So I programmed 3 different sounds here. And in the clean sound, I'm going through this orange AD200, which I'm actually not familiar with that amp. I've never played through that amp, but I was trying out all the different heads on here, and I really like how that one sounded. And then I paired that with the Fender Bassman, and then this is how that sounds. And now just for comparison, let's bypass this pedal, and this is just the dry bass sound without the amp. So you can see that amp just adding so much more fullness to the sound. Take it out. So that is my clean sound, and not only can you use all of the amps that you have that come pre-built into there and you have in the software, but you can also download a bunch of other ones in the ToneNet. There's a lot in the cloud that you can download from other users, and you can capture your own sounds as well. So if you have an amp that you really like and you want to play with that sound, but you don't want to take that amp with you, or maybe you're in a situation where you're traveling and you can't take it with you, you can capture that into the pedal. And that's great because if you're doing a gig where you're touring and you're playing on rented backline, which I've done that before, that's so hit and miss. Sometimes you get a great amp and sometimes you get just complete garbage. And then if you have this, you don't have to worry about it because no matter what amp you get, you can plug the TONEX into the FX return of the head. And then what that does is if you're going to the FX return, you're bypassing the preamp of that head. You're using that bass head like a power amp just to power the cabinet. So you're getting the sound of your amp in the TONEX no matter what amp you're playing through. So that's a great way to use this. And if you're playing a gig without an amp and you're just playing with in-ears, that's another situation where you have if you want to have your amp sound, you have it all in here and you don't even have to have an amp with you, but you're still getting your sounds. So now let's go to B. This is the drive, and I'm using a Dark Glass B7K for that. So you can see pretty heavy sound. And that is a Dark Glass. One interesting thing is when you put a stomp box on here, you can't put a bass amp with it. So you'll see that here I have the Dark Glass B7K. I have an Ampeg SVT A10, but there's no bass head. I don't know why that is. I tried everything, it just doesn't work. I looked up online to try to figure it out, see if I could figure it out, and I couldn't. For some reason, when you put the stomp boxes, it doesn't have the amp on there. But that is a Dark Glass. Pretty cool. I don't have any Dark Glass, but I like how they sound. So being able to get that sound on the TONEX is really, really cool. And then for my last sound, I have my solo sound, which is an Aguilar DB750, and I added some effects. So we have like a clean sound with a little bit of reverb just to add some ambiance, to add a little bit more of an interesting character to the sound for more solo bass arrangement stuff. So let's see how that sounds. So as you can see, clean sound, some effects, very, very cool tones that you can get out of this thing. And yeah, you can get all that in a tiny little compact pedal like that you can just throw on your board. As far as I'm aware, this is one of the most compact, smallest, and most affordable amp modeler out there. So very, very cool that you can get that in just a small pedal like this. All right, so that is a quick overview of the IK Multimedia TONEX bass pedal. I just wanted to give you guys a brief little overview of how it works, show you guys a few different sounds and ways that I would use it, but I didn't want this video to be too long or too boring. I know when you start getting technical with pedals and software, it's a very fine line. So I just wanted to keep it very quick, brief, simple. This is what it is. This is how it works. This is how it sounds. And if you guys have any questions, leave a comment down below. If you guys want to hear other sounds, I'm sure there's a lot of videos out there. IK Multimedia actually put out a video going through a bunch of different sounds. So I'll link that down below if you guys want to check that out. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, just leave a comment down below and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks.